to give us her own account on the situation from the civil society perspective. You have the floor, Dr. Bireete. Welcome in this meeting. We don't hear you. Maybe put the mic on the technical level. Try again.
Hello.
Yes, now we hear you.
Yes.
Hello.
Thank you so much, and I wish to add my voice to that of Honorable Robert Chagrani to thank you for the interest you're showing in the plight of Ugandans under a context of declining democracy. I want to start by re-echoing the values of the EU as enshrined under Article 2 of the European Union Treaty. And these are the values that we look up to: the values of human dignity, the values of freedom, democracy, equality, rule of law, and respect for human rights. The same values are enshrined in our constitution in Uganda, and they guide our work as a constitutional watchdog, the Center for Constitutional Governance, and a human rights defender, and the work that I do as a chairperson of the Global Network for Domestic Election Observers. On 30th December, I was not feeling well. I was in bed sleeping. I was awakened by the children that police had sieged our home. About 30 police and military officers had surrounded our home. 15 of these officers entered into the compound and were captured by the CCTV camera at my home. 5 of these officers entered up to my bedroom where I was sleeping under medication with two guns. As I woke up to take a shower in my bathroom, 2 armed officers kept guard on my open bathroom, violating my right to privacy, violating my dignity. I was incarcerated for 3 days at Natete police station under difficult conditions of restricted access to family and lawyers. My child, I was allowed my son and my niece to bring me meals, but they would be held for more than 3 hours before serving me a simple meal, yet I was undergoing heavy medication in incarceration. I was denied legal representation. My lawyers only met me a few hours on 1st of January, a few hours to interrogation. During interrogation, I had 4 lawyers present at the police station. I was denied legal representation. I was alone. And 1 lawyer was told to sit outside and he will be invited by the police if needed. Yet Article 23 of the Constitution provides that any person suspected of having committed a crime is entitled to legal representation, access to family, lawyers, and doctors. I was denied. All my visitors were chased away. I was held 2 days without knowing the offense I had committed. And when it clocked 44 hours in detention, that's when an officer came to interrogate me. And I was asked questions regarding the president and his son and the media interviews I do as part of my work in advocacy. During arrest, all the phones that were in my home, including those of my children, were wrongly confiscated by the police in a scuffle that led to assault of my children, and the phones of my children were held for more than 1 month, and they were left at home with no means of communication. My phone is still in police custody, and I have started experiencing digital impersonation. My handle on TikTok, my personal handle, has been brought down by hackers, yet it's registered in the phone that is with police. 3 different accounts have been opened in my names using my biodata and my place of work, and they post offensive communication using deep fakes. The communication is related to what I was interrogated about. 2 of these accounts were opened when I was in detention in prison. And with my phone in the hands of police and with digital impersonation, I don't know what else they are doing regarding my personal data and communication. Towards elections, I was profiled as a highly dangerous person because of the work that I do as a chairperson of the GENDEM, chairperson of the Eastern Horn of Africa Election Observers Network, vice chairperson of the Africa Elections Observer Network, and president of the East Africa Civil Society Forum. The security thinks that this work that I do in the region, on the continent, and at the global level is dangerous, and it warrants me being treated as a terrorist because of promoting democracy and human rights. This profiling is what led to my detention and the charges that are related to a voter register, which I have never seen, that are related to sharing of data on a voter register, which is a public document, and these are the charges that I am battling in court. When you look at the work, the characterization of my work during travels at the airport, some random security officers would ask me what I do and why I travel so much. And the work was characterized as recruiting for opposition, as fundraising for opposition in security files. This is how I became a target of regime harassment. The unwritten offenses by the military and the security agencies in Uganda is that if you are a promoter of democracy and human rights, then you are a dangerous person to the government of Uganda. Our constitutional watchdog, the organization that I head locally, capitalizes on demanding for accountable leadership in line with the Constitution of Uganda. But calling out to the regime to account on human rights violations on several media platforms is what rendered me to be branded as a criminal in Uganda. The siege under my home, which lasted for more than 2 hours, surrounding the whole neighborhood, violated our privacy, led to assault of my children, led to the detention of their phones, and depriving them of a right to communicate or study, including those that were engaged in online studies. I will now embark on the plight of civil society organizations in Uganda. The suspension of work permits for organizations that work on governance, human rights, and elections violates the NGO Act of Uganda, violates the NGO Amendment Act of 2024, because the definition of the NGO Bureau in Section 16 means the board members of the Bureau. These board members do not exist after rationalization. The secretary who signed forms purporting to be holding out as the Bureau is impersonating the Bureau and has no such mandate. And the suspended NGOs were not given a right to be heard, which is a right provided for in the NGO Act. And the indefinite suspension of permits is in effect closure of NGOs without due process. The NGOs have been intimidated into silence. because of a mention of activities prejudicial to national security, and most of them are hopeless and they cannot fight back. My third issue is on general human rights violations in Uganda. The militarization of the accreditation process for voter education and election observation leading to elections, which we refused, saying that voter education cannot be the business of the military. And because we were pushing back protecting the laws of Uganda, we were then marked as dangerous. In this election, there was no credible voter education, high militarization of elections, and disruption of opposition campaigns, especially those of the National Unity Platform, disrupted by the military and police, yes, including roadblocks, the issues that we were talking about that led to the arrest. And
Bireete, Ms. Bireete, yes, I'm sorry.
Yes, please.
Our chair, Hilde Woutmans, had to leave, so I'm stepping in for her. My name is Ingeborg Telek, and I'm the vice chair of this committee. Can I ask you, please, to come to your conclusions, because I assumed this was your third and last item you wanted to address, or not?
Yes, please. I will mention the state of judicial and rule of law as I go towards the conclusion.
Thank you.
We have the weak judicial in place with questionable legitimacy because the Bar Association of Uganda has been locked out of the Judicial Service Commission, and the ongoing appointments, including that of the Chief Justice and Principal Judge, have questionable legitimacy because of lack of quorum at the Judicial Service Commission. There is also abuse of the presumption of innocence by the courts of Uganda, and anybody suspected of committing a crime is treated as if they have already been convicted, and this is a violation of Article 28 of the Constitution. As I conclude, I want to re-echo the diplomatic relations between the EU member states and citizens of Uganda. There is remarkable silence from your representatives in Uganda, and we understand the diplomatic relations to be relations between member states while promoting the pride and welfare of citizens. There is silence on violation of human rights in Uganda. There is silence on the re-echoing of EU values that are enshrined under Article 2 of the treaty. And through you, I want to request that the people of Uganda should not be pushed to lose confidence in your representatives in our capitals by neglecting the rule of law and rights of the people. I thank you so much.
Asante sana, Mrs. Bireete, and your message is very well heard on this side. It's very well heard by the Parliament, and thank you so much for your intervention. And I think you really paved the way for our next speaker to also say something about the diplomatic relationships we hold as Europe with Uganda. So I want to give the floor to Mr. Jonas Jonasson, head of the unit for the Horn of Africa and East Africa in the European External Action Service. Mr. Johnson is the European Parliament resolution specifically called on the EU to engage with Ugandan authorities regarding violations, close monitoring relevant trails, and to review cooperation with the Assistance for Uganda to ensure respect for EU principles, as Mrs. Bireete was saying, implementing targeted sanctions and prioritize support for civil society, human rights, and LGBTIQ plus defenders and journalists. Can you please inform us about what the EEAS has been doing so far, both in Brussels and in Kampala, and how do you see the way forward? Mrs. Jonasson, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chair, honourable members of this Parliament and distinguished colleagues also in this discussion, like the previous speakers. It's a very important opportunity indeed to discuss the situation in Uganda and EU-Uganda relations. Indeed, I would like to say a few words about that on our assessment of the elections and indeed, Chair, as you said, on the way ahead. Mm-hmm. First of all, I just wanted to refer to our statement of the 23rd of January, where we commented and acknowledged the results of the elections, but also expressed our regrets, especially with regard to post-election violence and threats against the opposition. The Chair already referred to the context of, indeed, EU-Uganda relations, where obviously there are many shared areas of common interest for cooperation with Uganda and with Ugandan people, which ranges from trade and investments, green transition, connectivity, climate resilience, sustainable forestry, etc. And in all of this, as you know, one of our flagship initiatives, the Global Gateway Strategy, is very prominent here. I will refrain from going into details, but also to say, as the Chair already mentioned, that Uganda's role in the region for peace and security is very important. Somalia was mentioned. Uganda's role as a major refugee hosting nation is very important and contributing to regional stabilization. And of course, Uganda has a global voice, for example, chairing the non-aligned movement. And in all of this, we stress that Uganda, through our governance programs, also strengthens the democratic process and civil society. And we believe that our economic cooperation and in all these areas that I mentioned will also promote the interest of youth, notably. Having said that, the EU continues to support governance reforms, civil society and human rights initiatives, because sustainable development depends on accountable institutions, the rule of law, and inclusive participation. And over many years, we have worked with Ugandan institutions and stakeholders to support democratic processes through election observation, governance programs, civic participation initiatives, and sustained political dialogue to contribute to an environment where political competition remains peaceful, inclusive, and trusted by citizens, as we have heard, is a very major issue. On the recent elections, actually our observations, and I knew that there would have been a representative also of the AU-IGAD COMESA findings of the elections. They largely coincide and align, which acknowledge the largely peaceful conduct of voting while highlighting concerns related to the political playing field, arrests of opposition actors, and restrictions affecting access to information. And such observations underline the importance of continuous dialogue aimed at strengthening electoral credibility over time. And as I already said, we said publicly we regretted the post-electoral violence and threats, particularly against opposition leader Robert Kyagulanyi, Bobi Wine, and we called on all parties to exercise restraint on the authorities to ensure the safety of all political actors. Looking ahead, electoral reforms remains an important area of engagement, and we continue to encourage progress on issues such as the independence of the Electoral Commission, transparency in results management, campaign finance, oversight, equitable media access, and effective dispute resolution mechanism, and anchoring all these reforms in Uganda's own constitutional jurisprudence. Through initiatives such as governance programs, the EU has supported civic education, dialogue platforms, rule of law initiatives, and capacity building efforts designed to strengthen institutions and encourage peaceful political participation as a long-term strategy to promote democracy and the rule of law. And for this reason, we remain our engagement with all actors, government institutions, opposition representatives, but also civil society, religious leaders, and security actors, because we want to support this inclusive dialogue. We will therefore also continue to engage as a predictable, principled, and long-term partner supporting Uganda's democratic journey through dialogue, cooperation, and shared commitment to stability and inclusive government. That is particularly important as we actually celebrate this year the 50th anniversary of our relationship. And in that spirit, we would like to continue the support to the issues we have discussed today. But I want to stress that we are closely and we continue to closely monitoring the situation, as we've heard about today, the political and civic space, as well as the human rights situation in the country. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. And now I would like to give the floor to colleagues, to members. Would you please, do you have questions? Would you like to speak out or to intervene? Yes, please. Yes, please. Mr. Ujian.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair, and thanks for organizing this today's hearing. And I would like first to say on a personal note to Robert, all the best for you and for your family as well. We had the opportunity to discuss with David Lewis a couple of days ago about the situation during the election. And indeed, this looks more like a military operation, as you say, than to a real election. And for me, it's quite obvious that Uganda is can be at the same time this country that is brings stability to the region by engaging with neighbors and by hosting refugees from neighbors. And at the same time being horrible to its own opposition to people that engage in civil society. In a way, this country has kind of a split personality, being good at this on the one hand and mean to the inside, and that this state is a state as a booty for the Museveni family, and the regime can be seen today. Today there was planned to be held a Catholic Mass in the Lubaga Cathedral for political prisoner, Dr. Kizza Besigye, and other political prisoners that has been cancelled on the last minute by the Archbishop, probably because he got a call that it would be wise not to do this. For me, this shows that this is not a free country. I can only say that for me, there's no transparency in those elections, and already acknowledging the results of such a fraudulent election is taking part in supporting a regime that is, from my point of view, not duly elected. So I think that we are already too positive on that note as a European Union. So it's said several times that the Ugandan constitution is very clear on the provisions, but apparently nobody cares, at least from those who are in the regime. So my question to our friends in Uganda is, what can we do further to support democracy and rule of law and human rights in Uganda, a part of doing what we do today, which is putting light to this situation. You request for targeted sanctions. My question to BAS is, what is hindering us if we know clearly that there are some people personally involved in abducting people, killing people, to put in place targeted sanction? These are my two questions to our esteemed guests. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there other colleagues who want to take the floor or not? Otherwise, I would like to give the floor back to Uganda, to Mr. Kuyangulani, Mr. Bobi Wine. Sorry for your family name is a little bit difficult for me to pronounce.
Yeah.
If you can give the floor first to you and then to Mrs. Bireete. Yes.
Sure. May I request that you repeat the question again, please?
So, Robert, first I said all the best for you personally and for your family. But I wanted to know a part of putting light on the situation and organizing meetings like this and calling for targeted sanctions. What else can we do in order to support you on the ground that are working for democracy in your country?
Thank you very much. I'll talk about what you can do from your end and what you can do from our end here in Uganda. From your end, of course, you can apply targeted sanctions. And I hear very many times regime apologists claiming that when you put targeted sanctions on individuals, it affects the nation. No, it does not. It saves the nation. You can slap targeted sanctions, travel sanctions, economic and legal, to the individuals, which individuals we have presented internationally, and others have actually come out themselves, like General Muhoozi, Museveni's son. You have laws like the Global Magnitsky, which has been applied to many human rights violators. We request that the same be applied to the regime back in Uganda. But also association. I mean, it slaps those who believes in democracy and human rights in the face when they see ambassadors or diplomats from the world-known democracies standing shoulder to shoulder with gross human rights violations. For example, imagine just a day or hours after General Muhoozi tweets taking pride in murdering people, in attacking people's families and undressing people and tweeting it, taking pride in killing. And then the next minute, you're going to see an official picture of an ambassador from a renowned democracy standing shoulder to shoulder. That is embracing, that is legitimizing impunity. And we call for a distancing on that. I mean, I've not seen an ambassador or an government official from a democracy standing shoulder to shoulder with Lukashenko or these other, renowned dictators. Also, we have requested that for all the aid that is extended to Uganda, let it be conditional. Let it be conditioned to respect to democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. That would be very helpful. If it is not possible to cut out any cooperation, of course, the best thing would be for a democracy to disassociate from anything that contradicts the same. However, if it is not achievable to completely disassociate, then at least let there be a minimum of demanded, reforms that can lead Uganda to a line of democracy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bobi Wine. And now I would like to give the floor to Ms. Sarah Bireete. I don't see her. Are you still there? Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Sarah, can you say something
thank you so much
about what we can do from our side more?
Yes, I associate myself with the submissions of Honorable Chagrani on what you can do. I just want to re-emphasize 3 issues. One is that you should use more of the Global Magnitsky Act on individuals that are engaged in gross violations of human rights in Uganda. 2 is that you should put stringent measures to your funding agreements regarding the protection of human rights, democracy, and the rule of law in Uganda that are at their lowest at this time, and we are worried about the next 5 years as citizens. 3 is that you should support more people as compared to government. Empower the people to fight for and protect their democracy. This is what you can do.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Bireete. And now, last, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Johnson. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit more about the sanctions, but also the conditions for aid.
Thank you very much. Well, it has been many references to the treaties of the European Union, and of course that is what's steering our engagement with all our partners globally. So it also in this case, of course, our development cooperation and our cooperation in general is not unconditional. It is based on our very clear values and expectations. In the case of Uganda, I've already outlined how we, at this stage, we monitor the situation very, very closely. We are engaging in a dialogue with both government, indeed, but also opposition and civil society. All of this, of course, is not happening in the public eye, but there is clearly a very proactive approach that we have, and also, of course, frank discussions. And through our development cooperation and the cooperation that we have, of course, we target that very much to governance and support to civil society, as I've outlined. And we have the possibility of focusing additionally on that as we deem necessary, and to accompany a reform process. So the way we today, the approach that we have today is one of engagement, and the proposals of restrictive measures have not been on the table in these discussions and in our and also in our discussions with our member states.
Thank you. And I would like to thank all our speakers, or all our guests for today, for their interventions. And I also would like to emphasize and to stress that we as European Parliament are committed to support a peaceful and prosperous society in Uganda, and to do the work with all the relevant stakeholders to achieve this. So we will continue closely monitoring the situation in Uganda. And we do call on the Ugandan authorities to guarantee the possibility of a safe return, physical integrity and freedom of movement for Mr. Robert Kyagulanyi, Bobi Wine, as well as to ensure due process and an independent investigation into the arbitrary arrest and detention of Dr. Sarah Bireete. With this, dear colleagues, this brings us almost to the end of this meeting. If there are no more questions for the members, then I would like to close today's meeting. The next date of the next delegation meeting will be communicated in time. So hereby I close the meeting. So I'm very sorry. Good to see you. I'm sorry. So yeah, next time. Okay. Thank you so much.